Good afternoon. Deep dive with me, Nikunj Dalmiana. It's all about this entire halabaloo which is happening in the market that kya mutual fund sahi hai? Small cap, large cap, mid cap, which way should you be investing in? After the recent volatility in the stock market, is the bull market over? Is the party over? Lord chalo FD mein. Lot of these narratives which in a sense have been absent from last couple of years because markets have moved in a linear manner, they've come back and they've been widely debated, ideated, discussed on almost all forums, individual forums and even social media forums. So what we would be discussing is plain, simple SIPs. Are SIPs the best way to thread the volatility? Question number one. Should you continue your SIPs in a market weakness? Because if markets are headed lower, then automatically your SIP returns in a sense will not be there. And what is the best way to really get into this whole debate of asset class? You know, it's like a fancy word, right asset allocation. Wait, what is the right asset allocation? We'll talk about it. Now, before we do that, here's a look at amongst all this raging debate of large cap, small cap, gold, fixed deposit, what are the 3 and 5 year CAGR returns? We looked at the industry average here. Gold 5 year CAGR returns are 13%. And I'm purely looking at last 5 years and 3 years. This is not tailor-made data. 13%, about 14%, and 3 year return is about 13%. Small caps, 5 year CAGR return 22%. They were coming from the COVID base, so it will be unnaturally low. But still the 3 year CAGR return is 17%, which is not bad. Mid cap, decent, 24 and 21. Large cap, 9.5%. So whichever way I look at it, it is not that small and mid cap stocks have given returns which are sky high. They are above the mean, but they are not sky high. B, with all this narrative that gold is right, I think gold has given returns which are better, but nothing great if I look at the 5 year average. So that's what we would be discussing in terms of how to trade this market. Now, before I welcome my guest on board, Feroze Bhai would be joining us, Sunil Subramaniam would also be joining us. I just want to highlight the SIP data for the month of Jan. और क्या बात है जी, मजा आ गया. 26,000 करोड़ का SIP flows. I think it is very, very heartening to see that the SIP number in amidst volatility, because markets had turned volatile in December, January, Feb, they've been horrible. There's a January data though, but the data in a sense is endorsing that the Indian investor is endorsing the SIP, importance of SIP, and has really moved up the value chain in terms of understanding the importance of this asset class. And I say that rather than focusing on the seller, FIs, focus on the buyer, which is DIs. 2000 to 2008 bull market was dominated by FIs. 2010 to 2018 bull market was dominated by HNIs and family offices, but this bull market belongs to the Aam Aadmi. And the Aam Aadmi is saying that SIPs mein rahenge, mutual funds sahi hai. Small and mid cap funds have seen inflows in last for 6 months on the trot now. It's only that these NFOs which are chasing these fancy trends, those NFOs are taking a back seat, and rightly so. So let's take our conversation forward. Feroze Bhai joins us along with Sunil Subramaniam. Hello. I must say, man, you know, I mean, you just surprise me every time. Always dapper, always neatly dressed. Film set के पे जा रहे हो या टीवी स्टूडियो में आ रहे हो फिरोज भाई?
निकुंज सर के साथ में बैठने आ रहा हूँ तो कुछ अच्छा दिखना चाहिए. मैं टी-शर्ट पहन के बैठा था, मैंने कहा कुछ तो पहन लूँ, अपनी आबरू अच्छा रखूँ आपके सामने.
क्या SIP फ्लो का नंबर है? दिल खुश हो गया. 26,000 करोड़. I was not expecting this number.
निकुंज सर देखियो, आप प्रचार करके फिर एक्सपेक्टेशन नहीं करते हो. आपने बहुत लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टिंग का प्रचार किया है. जहाँ तक कि मैंने देखा है मीडिया थोड़ा सा नेगेटिव रहता है, बट आप न्यूट्रल रहते हैं, पॉजिटिव की तरफ झुकाव रहते हैं. सो यू बैलेंस इट आउट सुपर बिकॉज क्लाइंट्स ओवर नीड टू ओवरकम फियर इन इक्विटी. देखो रियल एस्टेट में लोग डरते नहीं है. रोज अगर ब्रोकर से मैं फोन करके प्राइस पूछूंगा मेरे घर का, हम दोनों तो पड़ोसी हैं, प्लैनेट गोदरेज का अगर हमने पूछा रोज तो ब्रोकर फोन उठाना बंद कर देगा 10 दिन बाद. बट व्हेन people are looking at equity, they want to log into an app every evening and see what's the value. So fear is automatically being induced because of the frequency of price discovery. So we have to be little more on the positive side to neutralize the disadvantage of equity, which is transparency itself is the disadvantage. So I'm not surprised if your viewers would be seeing and doing so much SIP, 26,400, and you have a large contribution to it, and I sincerely feel that.
Thank you very much. But the point, Feroze Bhai, this is Not an ordinary month. Jan is when the market really had turned tumultuous. Upar niche. First time the foundation of this bull market was shaken or tested. And yet the flows are strong. So touch wood. सब जगह वुड है. टच वुड अगेन. करो टच वुड करो पहले.
बिल्कुल सर.
आप तो पेंसिल लेकर टच वुड ऐसे हो रहा है. That is for me, that is the encouraging side.
It is definitely very encouraging, sir. And if you look at, there was another pocket when Nifty itself disappointed in this period.
Yes,
Since when direct equity starts bleeding is when people start believing stocks are not doing well. The last Jan, these 40 days have been very topsy-turvy for stocks and direct equity holders. They bought good stocks, they thought, and they fell 30%, 40%. You see the October 21 to October 23, 2 years, Nifty series I remember because I'm also a derivative guy. So 18,558, 18,876. 2 साल घूम फिर के निफ्टी वहीं की वहीं आ गई. SIP number moved from 11,000 to 19,200 crores. 80% jump and markets did nothing, at least on the headline number. So I personally think I am very happy and very relieved that the long-term investor is putting in money for the long term. One thing is, if we draw up a context for a moment, you look at last 1 year, household savings, it is 34 lakh 98,000 crores. 34 lakh 98,000 crores. 92% of that was debt and insurance-based investments.
Yes.
So the point I'm trying to make is, however large the 26,400 might be, which is scaring people that people अंधों की तरह पैसा लगा रहे हैं, 8% ही लगाया भाई. Household savings का आप अंधों की तरह कैसे बता सकते हो? I was speaking to somebody, he says people are blindly putting into equity. Blindly putting into equity is 92%. 8% को आप blindly नहीं बोल सकते. 43% की deposits last year. 43% of 35 lakh crore. That's a lot of money. अंधों की तरह हम डिपॉजिट में डालते हैं महंगाई को डिसरिस्पेक्ट करके. It's not the other way around.
And taxes भाई किधर हो? टैक्स तो एफडी में देना पड़ेगा.
बिल्कुल.
SIP के अंदर the tax structures are very different.
Very, very different.
And we underestimate the importance of tax. I always tell people that imagine somebody takes a bite of your ice cream. How will you feel? That is taxes.
Bite? Bites. Plural में बोलना, bites.
Okay. Sunil Subramaniam joins us and hello.
Hi.
SIP सही है.
अरे हम दोनों ने लॉन्च
किया था. But your fellow fund managers, your peers are saying mutual fund सही है मगर small cap सही नहीं है.
Peers नहीं, एक peer. Peers मत बोलो.
You prided in Sundaram because you had a small and mid cap scheme, and which I remember reading the numbers, which gave a CAGR return of 22% for 20 years. Your 100 rupees by law of averages was up more than 100 times.
Correct. Perfect.
So where is this debate coming from?
See, I'll tell you, the debate is coming from two things, right? One is the fierce psychosis. I hate to say this, but I think that, the fund manager in question, let's not name him, right, got worried with the amount of money coming in, and in mutual funds, thanks to the dividend taxation now being unfavorable, a fund manager cannot return money through dividend to the investor if he feels that he can't buy stocks which are worth his time. So he has already, I think in his scheme said up to 2 lakh SIPs allowed, he stopped lump sum and all of that. But even the 2 lakh SIP, I think there's a genuine worry. And I think the problem with that was that in coming in a public forum and then saying that redeem your small and mid cap holdings, stop your SIPs, which I think goes against, see, we are struggling to increase the penetration. You saw the chart on mutual fund SIP, right? It was 10,000 crore at COVID. With struggle, we have brought it to 26. We still have only 5 crore unique PANs in the mutual fund industry. We are trying to get people to stay faithful in the stock market. And then saying that I have not seen anybody 20 years. 20 years back, well, I investor obviously didn't stay for 20 years because equity was a very risky asset class. Today's investor has got so much knowledge at his fingertips. Why do you assume that today's investor will not stay for 20 years? Second, I think Feroze will agree with me, a subtle change has happened over the years. Earlier, SIPs in the form, you have to write the period for which you want. So people would say 3 years, 5 years. That since the bank mandate system has come in, right? What's happened is that's now left to a limit of 2099. So SIP started with that end date which is years later. So for a mutual fund investor, if you had earlier put a 3-year SIP and 3 years finished, would he restart it or not was a question. Nobody put 20-year SIPs 20 years back. But today's investor, I'm saying, he just investing, his bank gets debited and it comes in, right? And the third thing is that you're saying this at a point in time after there's been a huge correction. If this had been said 6 months ago at September, there was a call to it saying it's gone too high. Now there's a 10% correction. Your recent SIP installments are actually going to be your winners because they have corrected. Your rupee cost averaging comes into play. So somewhere I feel the timing, this has, and obviously the markets have reacted badly because he's such a well-known name and he did it in a public forum. And I think that has created a fear psychosis. I've had n number of distributors and investors calling me, panicking, what do I do? What do I do? And I've put out my own videos saying, do not panic, right? In fact, to me, very, very clearly, because of this correction, you should top up your SIP. Bring value cost averaging to your rupee cost averaging, right? You can't, and the only persons to worry about, because I'll tell you, is that a person who started us, let's say, a 5-year back, a 5-year SIP, saying, I want to do a daughter's wedding with that. That's coming through in the next, let's say, year. Then you book your whatever you do and switch it to liquid, because next 6 months I can't predict. So except for that particular set of individuals who have a goal base in the next 6 months to 1 year,
Fair point.
all the rest of the people, you should actually be topping up your SIP now. And in fact, I heard Feroze say buy in another interview just I think yesterday or something, right?
But he came on ET now. You don't watch ET now?
Yeah, I think ET now only.
Okay, Feroze bhai, I'll turn to you. I always say that you're always on my right side.
Yes, fortunately.
You have proprietary data because your business is to advise mutual clients which is a good mutual fund to buy in your scheme of things and what asset allocation is the right asset allocation. First, first answer. Where are you on this small cap becoming a Humpty Dumpty debate? That SIP small cap is expensive, it is high risk, and next 3 years you will get no return. Would you endorse it, or you would say it is all opinion of an individual, we should ignore it?
See, I think small cap is too large an universe to make any generic statement. Let me give you some data. There's one small cap stock in the NSE small cap 250. The PE is 967. There is another small cap stock which PE is 4.88. एक PE है 4.88 की, उसको भी स्मॉल कैप करार दिया गया है, और 967 वाली PE को भी स्मॉल कैप. इसको कोई जेनरिक कर सकता है क्या?
They both are part of small cap indices.
Small cap NSE small cap 250 index.
Okay,
which is what fund managers are supposed to track.
Exactly. Wow.
तो अब हाउ कैन यू वन साइज फिट्स ऑल, क्लाइंट में नहीं चलता, इंसानों में नहीं चलता, तो स्मॉल कैप स्टॉकों के कैसे आप ये कर सकते हैं? और दूसरा आंकड़ा मैं देता हूं आपको, आप देखें द स्मॉलेस्ट कंपनी ऑफ small cap has become 8 times larger in the last 5 years. The biggest company has become 7 times larger than 8,000 crore की थी, आज 60,000 crore की है, 68,000 crores की है. When a retail niveshak is listening to you, he is not an intellectual finance, काम धंधा छोड़ के finance ही सीख रहा है. उसको आप small cap बोलते तो उसके जहन में, in his mind, he is not thinking 68,000 crore company, he is thinking the 500 crore की company.
Yeah.
Right? So English words seldom describe the mathematics which is behind it. So I think people with fiduciary responsibility of lakhs of crores, whom people look upon, have to make very responsible statements. That's my opinion. So I am for data. It tells me that if you do rolling returns, which is a very good proxy.
What are rolling returns, if you can break it for our viewers?
Yes, आपने कहा संक्षेप में बोलना,
नहीं,
तो मैं वापस आ सकता हूँ.
ये important है. What are rolling returns?
The rolling return has, देखो 10 साल 10-year investors, SIP, I might start it in 2004.
Yeah.
So my 10 years finish in 2014.
Okay.
Nikunj sir might start in 2001. You might finish in 2011. So Sunil sir might start in 2007. He might finish in 2017. The rolling return concept takes the experience of several different investors of 10-year investments.
Okay.
So I've taken 109 people investing starting any first of the month and finishing 10 years later. So Naren sir is also right. There is a small possibility, 0.4% probability that the small cap fund SIP after 10 years gave a negative return, the chance is 0.4%.
That's it. Mathematically.
Mathematically. This is 109 investors starting from the last 24 years.
And these are randomly selected.
No, they are selected on 1st of Jan, 1st of February, every year.
Okay.
Monthly
Mathematically, they are selected.
There is no bias. This is a random sample.
Okay, random sample.
Okay, 109 different investors. There is 99.6% chance that you can't lose money in a small cap.
Okay. On a 10-year basis, rolling
On a
return.
10-year SIP, chalu ki tha. Right? And there is 99% chance, 90% chance that you will make more than FD.
Okay.
Now, 85% chance that you will make more than 10% return, double-digit return. There is a 76% probability that you made more than 12% return in small cap. I have similar data for large cap and mid cap. You see, large cap's average return is 12.6, and small cap's average return is 14.
So small cap, if you are a genuine 10 years in 10 years. So let's first understand, हम 10 साल की बात करें. This is not like 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. If you are a genuine investor for next 10 years, history, if history is anything to go by, small cap SIPs have given returns which are a 10% better than large cap. To put it very simply.
Correct.
Okay. Let's take that break. I just want to park this thought in everyone's mind that while just like one shoe does not fit all, I will use the example of fingerprints. No two individuals have the same fingerprint. If two individuals don't have the same fingerprint, then one asset allocation which may work for someone may not work for the other. For Feroze bhai, for me and for Sunil sir, all three allocations are different because we are three different individuals with different income, with different risk, with different appetite and different curve of our needs. I just want to park that thought and then we'll come back and we'll talk more about it. Conversation with Feroze Azeez and Sunil Subramaniam. We are discussing that SIP sahi hai to kya small cap zaruri hai. And now the conclusion what we've come out with is that you have to understand the importance of asset allocation, but within that, if one really looks at the small and the mid cap SIP experience in last 10 years, it has been more than satisfactory. So to assume that small cap SIPs have never made return, well, in some cases, if you choose the right funds in 10 years, the returns have been far more than satisfactory. So I'll throw open this another question. What is the right way of picking a SIP in a small cap fund, Sunil? I mean, what is the best way one should say that, okay, I want to be in small cap, but I want to be, what are the filter criteria I should use to be in a small or a mid cap fund via the SIP route?
So I would say that first choose 3 different styles of fund managers, right? Now, what do I mean? There are lots of ways of styles, but first is like Feroze pointed out, 251 to 500 is the universe as presented. But beyond 500 to 2500 also there are stocks, right? So there are fund managers. The benchmark is either a small cap 100 or a small cap 250. So there are fund manager styles who stick within the index to choose their 50, 60, 100 stocks, and those who go beyond, right? So those who go beyond are going down the cap curve and taking greater risk. So choose one fund manager like that who goes beyond and takes risk. Second aspect is SEBI rule says only 65% needs to be in small cap. So there are some people who manage risk by putting the other 35% in larger mid or large cap. They are playing safe and trying to reduce the volatility. Choose one fund in that way. Third is sectoral diversification. Lots of people dabble in a lot of sectors, some run relatively concentrated. So I think if you choose 3 funds which are different in these styles, that's the way to go about it. There's no one fund manager which you choose because last 10 years, next 10 years, how we will do, we don't know, right? So I think that if you use these criteria, benchmark hugging, the people who go up the value, up the cap curve, and some people who take risks beyond the cap curve. These 3 type of funds, if you choose, I think you are prepared for most scenarios.
Feroze, before I wrap, last question. Final word is always आपका ही होता है. Last word जिसे हम कहते हैं. There is a risk associated with small cap investing, and they say that when the market conditions are good, you should buy a small cap. When market conditions are beaten down, you should buy a small cap. But when market conditions are not great in terms of historic P multiple, macro concerns, the valuation comfort is not missing, when markets have already seen a 2-3 year of run up, small cap investing will attract higher risk. So for those who really want to tame risk or keep risk low, Small cap investing is not a good idea.
Small cap investing as a proportion. See, independently, small cap is not a good idea. If there's somebody who's put 80% of his money in small cap, I would definitely talk him out of it. But small cap is a constituent of a jigsaw puzzle. If you look at a 30 lakh crore household savings in mutual funds, only 3 lakh crores is in small cap. At a country level, our allocation to small cap is 10%. Now, that's not outrageous, right? So I personally think small cap is a very, very good kicker to the portfolio, and it's not as risky as what people believe. There are 2-3 reasons why I believe that. See, Nifty में 50 स्टॉक हैं और 10 स्टॉक 70% की वेट खींच के बैठा है. स्मॉल कैप में 250 स्टॉक है और सबसे लार्जेस्ट वेट है 2% का, 2.5% का. सो बाय द वर्च्यू ऑफ इट्स डिवर्सिफिकेशन, द बीटा ऑफ स्मॉल कैप विथ निफ्टी इज 1.1. 10% ज्यादा रिस्की है ऑन पेपर, on Excel sheets, not in perception. Perception mein anybody can win the debate that small caps are 3 times more risky. I am speaking only Excel sheet. Only 10% more risky beta. One. Second is when bad times are there, right? I look upon this data. It really helps me soothe my nerves. So I would probably want to read it out to the investor because this is how, as an investor, I enjoy my night sleep when times are bad.
रात का Netflix. समीर आए थे आज, अरोरा साहब कह रहे थे that I want to invest so that I can watch Netflix at peace. तो अभी वही कर रहे हैं.
बिल्कुल नेटफ्लिक्स. हाँ, आजकल कंटेंट भी बड़ा दामाडोल है, वो देखना क्या है.
आवाज धीरे करो, पड़ोसी आवाज आती रहती है.
पड़ोसी है, बिल्कुल.
थोड़ी आवाज धीरे करिए.
बिल्कुल, मैं आपसे म्यूट पे देखूंगा, एयरपोर्ट लगा के. आपने कह दिया, बस बात खत्म है. अब एक चीज में ये डेटा पढ़ देता हूँ सर. आई कॉल दिस जितना डराता है उतना कमाता है डेटा. दिस इज जितना डराता है उतना कमाता है डेटा. नाउ लेट्स लुक एट SIP. We looked at which are the SIPs, the unlucky investors, so-called, after 5 years. There were 9% of investors after 5 years in SIPs in Nifty had a negative 3% return.
Okay.
5 साल बाद ऐसे 9% लोग हैं जिसकी नेगेटिव रिटर्न थी निफ्टी में SIP करके -3. The same guys, if they actually had the steel nerves and waited for the subsequent 5 years and made it a 10-year period, the IRR of the full 10-year period was 21.6.
This is Nifty.
This is Nifty alone. Okay. So the bad news you get in the first 5 years is a reasonable indication that the subsequent 5 years the market will do significantly better. Because market जब गिरती है ना, हल्के हाथ साफ कर देती है.
जी हाँ, जी हाँ, जी हाँ.
तो फिर जब रैली आते लाइक कोविड, पूरे हल्के हाथ साफ हो गए. Then there are very solid hands. Those fund managers who own stuff for 10-15 years, not in TV interviews, but in actual demat accounts, right? Yeah. Everybody in TV interviews say, buy right, sit tight, right? Now, so the point I'm trying to make is, if anybody has a small cap strategy, I was testing a beta strategy, smart beta strategy. Look at any stock which has, in the small cap space, choose the least volatile 50 stocks. And you buy them. That implies that their ownerships are very stable. They've always outperformed. So there's small cap में बहुत opportunity है दिमाग लगाने की, अगर कोई fund manager लगाना चाहे.
So I'll just summarize today's lovely interaction that small cap should not be out of your portfolio. But if you have small cap, increase your time horizon. In equity as an asset class, the minute you increase your time horizon, your chances of return increases. There are some schemes where the first 5 years of investing, you may have made negative returns or no returns. But the minute you make 5-10, the returns in a sense are something which are not only beating inflation, they give you huge advantage on taxes, and the amount of wealth what you would create is something which is phenomenal. So you don't know if in the 10-year period, the first 5 would be bad or the first 5 would be great. I really hope that the bad is over and the great 5 is coming. And with that, we'll wrap this edition of Deep Dive with Nikunj Talma. Feroze bhai, thank you very much. And Sunil sir, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.